Good evening, and welcome back to our Wednesday night devotional thought. We're glad to have you. Hopefully, we can get back to Bible talk real soon. Looking forward to getting that going again. But tonight we're going to have our devotional. Family's still doing well as of this recording. It is Tuesday afternoon. There's nobody up here at the church building but me, and so I'm still observing my quarantine and being a good boy. And Lord willing, we will be out of that situation on Thursday. So be praying for that. We have others with other things going on, other ailments and prayer lists and all. We don't mean to give any special attention to us, but there's been questions, and we just wanted to help answer those in a timely way. Would like to make a note before we begin our devotional that posted a note on the Facebook group in regards to Exposure Youth Camp. Are intending to, as of right now, to continue to have Exposure Youth Camp this year. That might not be for you this year. That's okay. But look at those guidelines and see if that's something you feel like you and your family could be a part of. And if you could go by those guidelines, if those are good enough for you, it's going to be different. It's going to be weird like everything else, but trying to do the best we can. And kind of our thinking is, hey, if we can have school, we can have exposure. Now that we know a little bit more about this virus and how it works, and some good standbys and guards to have against it. Check that out on the Facebook page. If you are wanting to go, we need to know. You can sign up or text me or let Emily know. We need to get that registration in very beginning of next week, and that's important to get the rooms we want. Well, all that being said, let's go ahead and get into our devotional thought at this time. You know, we've been thinking a lot in our home, and forgive me for using an illustration about my family, of having a healthier home. That has been our focus. Look, folks, I didn't know that you could take so many vitamins. I take a vitamin, I hardly go 2 hours without taking some kind of supplement or vitamin or some kind of thing. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty tired of it. But we add those things to our health, to our system, to try to make us stronger, to try to have a healthier home. We're doing all kinds of different things in our home to separate us out, to have increased ventilation, to try to keep our home healthy. And thank God so far, we've been able to do the best we can with that, given our current situation. But don't you want a healthy home, and don't you want a happy home? And we're not really talking about COVID. We're not really talking about a physical health. We're talking about a spiritual, healthy home. I see people going to great lengths to keep their homes physically healthy. And that's important, and that's to be commended. And it's not a criticism of that. But many times I don't see lengths or great lengths executed to have a spiritually healthy home. And with spiritual health comes spiritual happiness and all happiness, really. You know, when you think back on this subject, you need to think back to Joshua and the statement that he made in Joshua 24:15. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He's a wise man. He sees he has a situation that is pressed upon him, and there's choices that are there to be made. They can follow God, they can not. And he says, look, and I'm going to serve God, and so is my family. I can speak for us. We're going to serve God. He's going to be number one. He understands that he's a priest of his family. I mean, he's charged with the responsibility to see that his whole house serves the Lord. He had the job of representing his whole house before God. And he says, before me and my house, that indicates that Joshua was determined on his course, no matter what anybody else thought. Look, y'all can go do what you want to do, and you can think what you want to think, and they can have their opinion. But for me and for my house and for us, we're going to be Christians nowadays. We're going to serve God. We're going to serve God. His relationship with God was not based on any man. If you pulled one pillar out of his support system, it wasn't going to crumble. If the people around him all rejected God, it didn't matter. He was still going to serve God. I don't know if we could always say that. So many times we have our faith kind of overlapping or relying on somebody else's. We need to have the goal of getting to where Joshua says, well, look, I'm going to do it no matter what. He would not serve God, the Lord. He would not serve him as someone or something else. There was one God in his life, and that was the Lord. So we have 5 discussion points today I want to get into real briefly. as we kind of did last week. First of all, we can strengthen our family by giving ourselves completely to God. Giving ourselves completely to God, Galatians 2:20. A committed life to Christ, it doesn't happen by accident. It's not something we stumble into or back into or just kind of grow into by accident. It is a product of a purposefully lived life. This faith that we have, that we talked about last week, will lead us to walk by that faith. Paul had, in several different passages, he uses a phrase that he quotes Habakkuk, and he says, but the just will live by faith. It is a way we live. It is how we live. It is who we are. We live by our faith. The faith or the gospel of Christ produces this faith in which by we walk. And that what we need to understand is there are times when things, maybe like Joshua, around us are not going well, that we don't understand or see or have a support system, or we feel alone. And that's where we need faith to get through, because we can't see how this is going to work out. We may not be able to understand the bigger picture. We have to have a faith to get through. There's an exercise that we did at Camp Wiregrass one year, many moons ago. It was called a faith walk. And I'm sure you can imagine that if you were in the woods at Camp Wiregrass, which is in Chancellor, Alabama, which is next to Geneva, Alabama, which is kind of close to Enterprise, Alabama, to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about, at 10 o'clock at night, and there may be some clouds in the air, and it is very, very, very dark in those woods. Now you have that, and you have a blindfold added to that situation, and you have a few counselors with a limited amount of flashlights. And you are required to go through the trail in the woods. And the only way you can do that is by keeping your hand on a piece of yarn. And you have to have faith in those around you, in your counselors, and even a little bit in God to get you through it, because you cannot see, you can't understand, you can't envision, you don't know where it's going to come out, you don't know how it's going to play out, and you can't go backwards how this walk is going to end. And so you have to walk by your faith, literally. That is actually, though, how life works. We can't understand sometimes. We can't see the big picture. Sometimes we actually think we do, and we end up not. And so we have to walk by our faith. And when we don't walk by our faith, that's when we can get in trouble, because we lean on our own understanding, and then the carpet gets pulled out from under us, and here we are. So we need to strengthen our faith by giving ourselves completely to God, because we got to walk by it. Number 2, we need to spend much time. Now remember, we're talking about a healthy home here, educating our family to love other people. Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. You're familiar with it? Very basic, beautiful principle. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Do unto others as you would want them to do to you. How much better would our world be if we just all decided to live that way? Just that one principle. Everything else, so many things would just fall into place then. Just doing to others how we would want them to do to us. Treating people how we would want to be treated. But that's not a natural thing, obviously, right? That this is something that people don't just do. It is something that has to be taught. It is not natural for many of our little children to treat others nicely. They have to see it modeled. They have to be taught. They have to be shown why to do that and explained to do that. And we need to educate our families and educate each other and remind each other to treat other people how we would want to be treated. Could it be, don't gloat, don't brag, don't speak mean, be patient, be kind, do for them, serve somebody, let yourself be served, on and on and on and on. Do for other people how you wish they would do for you. It's something that we really should think a little bit more about. It's not just something that we should have a little ruler bulletin board that we can put up on the education hallway and looks nice and pretty, and even the little ones can understand it. There's so much more to it than that. We just really need to give it its due time. Number 3, determined to be a guardian of your marriage. And so we're building on our faith, we're living our faith, we're strengthening that faith, and then we're educating that we're going to treat other people better. Now, take a step back real quick. That means husbands treat your wives better. Husbands treat your wives how you want to be treated. Wives, husbands, how you want to be treated. Children, treat your parents how you want to treat. And then so on and on and on and on. That principle applies in the home just as much as out in the world too. And then bringing it back to number 3, we have to be a guardian of marriage. Over in Malachi, back in the Old Testament, it reads this in 2:14. But you say, what does he not? Because the Lord was a witness between you and the wife of your youth, to whom you have been faithless, though she has been your companion and your wife by covenant. You see, in Malachi here, the priests have sinned. They forsook the wife of their youth, and they broke their marriage. They broke their goal of marriage. The goal of marriage is to have a companion. The goal of marriage is to have a companion. It's not to be made happy, although you would think a companion would make you happy. It's not some status gain. It's not any of these other peripheral things that kind of come with marriage. The goal is to have a companion. And they broke the goal. They broke the goal. She is your companion. Malachi 2:14. And then the bond is broken here too. The bond of marriage is broken. Your wife, by covenant, by promise, by legal statement, the covenant has been broken. We have to become guardians of marriage, husbands and wives, and specifically speaking to you, because I'm here to tell you, there's many out there who have no regard for marriage. Leave it whenever you want. Enter it without much serious thought. Do whatever you want, in and out, with whoever or whatever, in your time, whatever gets you your goals. If it hinders your pursuit of employment or whatever it may be, you just kind of can turn it on and turn it off, and however you want, almost like a dirty shirt. We got to be guardians of marriage, because the world is not. They don't want to or don't understand the covenant and the bond and the goal that our Bible and our Lord wants from our marriages. We need to be guardians of that, because nobody else is. We need to be on guard and take measures and have guidelines and rules, and not put ourselves in situations with people and whatnot. And there's conversations that need to be had, and barriers and guidelines and all that need to be put in place to guard our marriages. And that's a whole other series for a whole other time, but it's something that needs to be on our mind just as much as treating other people like we would want to be treated. And so number 4 now, we need to redeem the time. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 16 says, making the best use of time because the days are evil. Redeeming the time that we have. Let's talk about that and the little bit of time that we have today. There's 2 ancient Greek words that would be used for time. One had the idea of simply a day upon hour, as time ticks off. Time, it kind of just flies by. That kind of idea. The other word had the idea of a definite portion of time, a period, a time when something should happen. It's the difference between time and the time. The idea here is of the time. It is a definite season of opportunity that Christians must redeem. That's what he's trying to get across here in Ephesians. He actually used the same word in Galatians chapter 6 also in verse 10. And that word in English is translated opportunity. So maybe you have a little bit better idea of what he's trying to communicate here. He tells us to seize the time, seize the opportunity for the glory of Jesus. It isn't to make the most of your time, but to make the most of the time. The idea behind redeeming time is that you buy up opportunities like a shrewd businessman, like an investment, and you make the most of every opportunity for Jesus Christ. Redeem the time, the period that you've been given, whether that's in the golden years of your marriage, or in the twilight years, or in the beginnings, or in the children's stage, or in the teenager stage, or in the empty nest stage, whatever it may be, there is something to be redeemed in this time that is being presented to you right now to help your home be healthier. And finally, I'm going to talk directly to the men, but ladies, I believe you could get something too from this. And our last point, number 5, we need to step up, men, and be godly men that we've called to be. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as a weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. Husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. Be patient. Show honor. Give praise. Lift her up. Hold her up. Make her feel important and loved, and honor her as you're called to honor her. If we're doing that, you'll have a healthy, happy wife and mother of your family. And then we all kind of know that saying is true. The wife is happy, the family's happy. So there's a lot of truth to that saying. We joke, but there's a lot of truth to that. And we husbands have a lot of say in whether she is being honored or not. We're called to do that. It's not just biblical. It's not just the marital advice from your preacher. It is something from the very word of God, from the words of the Holy Spirit, through the pen of Peter, that says, honor your wife. Show honor to her. Live with her. Try to understand her. That means communicating. That means talking. It means listening. And then it means doing what you talked about. We need to pray to God bless our homes. Let's quickly review our 5 steps to a healthy, happier home. Number 1, strengthen your family by giving yourself completely to the Lord, walking by faith. Number 2, spend much time educating your family to love other people. Number 3, become a guardian of marriage. Number 4, redeem the time that you've been given, the opportunity that you have. And number 5, men, we've got to step up and do what we're called to do and commanded to do. Hope everybody is having a great evening tonight. I surely hope and pray that we can be together on Sunday, 8:30 early risers, 10 o'clock in person. Either way, we would love to see you in person and worship with you. We hope everybody has a really good evening, and we'll see you when we can. Good night.